So, okay, thank you for joining us today. My name's Anthony. I'm with the Omega Point program and the Omega Point Academy. Today, I'm spending some time with Johnny, who has been a mentor and a mentee on the Omega Point program. So, yeah, over to you, Johnny. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Anthony. And yeah, so I'm Johnny. I've been doing the Omega Point program for about 6 months now. My background is I head up operations at a fish and salad green farm in Brooklyn. And despite that being very different from this work here, I find this work's changed my life. And so I'm super glad to be here.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for being willing to speak about your experience. So, am I right in thinking that you've been both a mentee and a mentor in the program?
I have been. I started out as a mentee. I'm now on my second mentorship process. I've completed one and am almost halfway through my second mentorship process with the Omega Point program.
Fabulous. So when did you start your journey with the Mega Point?
So it would have been about 6 months ago, July and of 2020, and I it was my very first mentor mentee relationship at all. I had never been a part of kind of that one on one process, especially in this kind of work, this deep, soulful self mastery work that we get up to. And so that was the beginning of my journey. Um, but it's been off to the races since then.
Great. Thank you. And for the sake of clarity, it was me that originally mentored
Yeah,
Johnny. Um, so we kind of have a relationship that's developed on the back of going through this process. I'm wondering if you can turn your mind back to when I first approached you. What were you thinking when I came to you with this offer of a gift?
I had no idea what it was about, um, but I did know you, and I did know your expertise, and I had been in situations with you, Anthony, before where you held me, you held people I knew through some really tough and troubling times, and also helped guide myself through whether it was relationship or professional issues, whether it was limiting beliefs I had about myself, or just feeling uh, the potential or the excitement about my authentic self. And and so I had seen you do that to myself and other people. I didn't know what this program was about, but just trusting in that you had set up a process to even deepen that work, uh, I was incredibly excited to start.
Hmm. Thank you. Thank you. And that feels like quite a blessing as well. So thank you. Yeah. So had you done any kind of like personal development work before entering into the OPP program?
I had been a part of a program called All Kings, and I still am a part of All Kings, and it's a men's group based here in New York City, and we meet once a week. I've been doing that for a bit over a year, meeting once a week with a group of men to uh, do, I would say, different but similar work where we are holding each other accountable. We're checking in with each other emotionally and where we are at any given point each week, and and helping each other, I would say, build a sense of authenticity, trust, and simply um, helping each other be the kind of man that we want to be. And so that there's uh, both being healed and receiving that kind of um, training in All Kings, and there's also the giving aspect of it. And so I had a bit of background in those areas through All Kings,
Mhm.
but it's all group related. And so it's I would say a different vibe, and also it's a little slower as a result because it's meant to be a collective, and there are times where I step forward and times where I step back.
So how much of this experience that you went through with OPP was new to you?
So the a few things were brand new for me,
Hmm.
and those were the dynamic between mentor and mentee, and just having a focused person that is checking in with me every single day, or at least 5 days a week. Um, and I was very wary of that kind of relationship before. I never had a mentor growing up. No one I called mentor. No adult figure outside maybe a drum teacher who played that kind of elder or mentor role in my life. And I was very suspicious of people who talked about having those people in their lives because I never knew what that meant, and it always seemed like a bit of a, oh, I've got a mentor, I'm special as a result.
Hmm.
um, and I never saw the value in it until this program, and actually seeing how I've changed since this program has proven that value. Although I think the way it's set up with the Omega Point program is completely different from how I think other mentors in other spaces function. Um, the other aspect that's been very new to me is um, the concept of guided imagery or going into a space in my head where I can go for answers in a guided and structured way. And I use that all of the time now.
Hmm.
Beforehand, I was aware of meditation and I tried it. It never felt right for me. I, to this day, am not really interested in meditation, but I am interested in what the Omega Point program has taught me, which is, for lack of a better term, I would call it a guided imagery process, or a way to, by myself or with another person, go to a place in my head, either for the sake of doing that or with questions, and come back with ideas, with new priorities, with a sense of myself that is calmer and more deliberate than how I entered.
So I think you touched on it a little in some of your last answer, but I'm going to ask the question just to see if there's any more that you want to share. But what did you learn about yourself?
I learned that the answers, the most important questions I have the answers for
Right.
within myself. And it's the doing research and doing reading is great, but it's not going to answer the questions for me. And if I'm looking to make a decision, as opposed to going on the internet, researching the hell out of something, or looking for answers, um, instead of doing that, I now go to my room, I close my eyes, and I go to a very trusted, unsacred place within my mind. And I found that 1,000 times more productive than any other way of solving a hard question I had before.
Wow.
Um, that's been the newest thing and the biggest thing for me.
So it sounds like you kind of got a way to access your own wisdom, your own knowledge.
That's right. And a way to order the different wisdoms or parts of myself, where
Mm.
it's not just, oh, what's the wisdom? Let me hunt for it. It's a way of understanding that there are a lot of parts of myself that have different types of wisdom, and I can go through them in a way that feels not scattered but productive, orderly, and builds upon itself.
So would you say you are different now from the Johnny who started the program? Um, and if you are different, how are you different?
I'm very different. Not in terms of my personality, but in terms of my fears.
Hmm.
I would say before entering this program, there are certain emotions I ran away from. Uh, one of them is, especially in one-on-one situations, if I felt that there was emotional static, emotional charge, if I was in trouble somehow, someone was angry with me, I would try to say whatever I needed to say to lower the emotional charge, to get out of whatever, you know, subpar emotion, whether that was anger, whether that was sadness that was coming up. I wanted out of that situation. And I would tell jokes. I would say, I'm sorry. I would do whatever it took to get out of that. And now I feel like I have the tools to enter that and not only stay with those emotions, but actually lean into it and have that be a source of strength where I'm now asking that person questions that lead to greater emotions, but as a result, greater healing as well. And so I'm thinking of a situation that I'm anticipating tomorrow right now. It's at work, and I'm giving feedback to a coworker. And some of that feedback is positive, some of that feedback is negative. Um, and I'm not afraid of it. And it feels like this is the right thing to do. I know it's the right thing to do, but it's not something that I plan on shying away from or postponing for another 2 weeks, which is a feeling I would have had a year ago.
Mm. Mm. So it sounds like there's some real marked differences that you can kind of peg in your own experiences.
There are.
Um, and you spoke of how that's begun or is translating into your wider life. Are there other areas in your wider life that are different now that you've had and continue as a mentor to experience OPP?
Friendships. The the I've mentored two people now. One completed the process, one I'm halfway through, and those happen to be two of my best friends. And I've always felt very close to them, but I have always felt a little guilty about not giving enough to them, that I receive more than I give.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this program has been such a gift that I'm able to give other people, and especially friends, that I don't feel guilty anymore about that. I feel like I will share that forever with them, and no one can take that away. And I know that I have helped change them for the better in ways that they are grateful for. And our relationship will be deeper for as long as we live as a result. And so
Mm.
there's a sense of safety in those friendships that I had a large amount of before, but now it feels like it's there's no doubt there.
Thank you. I heard you use the word gift, and we like to think of the Omega Point program as a gift, as something really nice that we can offer to another person. And it sounds like that really kind of played out for you. So kind of going back to before you did the program and your journey through it, have there been any kind of like conflicts or tensions with your belief system, your belief system around life and how it works?
I would say not conflicts, but there have been tensions.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest tension has been I grew up Catholic, and I stopped going to church a while back. And for me, this concept of spirituality has always been hand in hand with the idea of Catholicism for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I stopped going to church, um, spirituality left my life, and this concept of science versus spirit or science versus religion was a big tension that I felt like I was on one side of, increasingly towards science and rationality. And this program opened me up to mysteries that I about like in myself, and feelings that frankly I don't think reading about science book or reading in science texts would guide me to. And that's opened me up to just the question of what does spirit look like inside of me and around me.
Mm.
Um, I don't think I have answers that are at all definitive on that front, but it certainly opened me up, and it's allowed me to just enjoy certain mysteries around me that I think I was just closed off to before.
Have there been any other kind of changes to your worldview or your kind of paradigm?
Changes to worldview or paradigm. I feel like this is the most important work that I do,
Mhm.
and I wish more people had were exposed to this work, were given the opportunity to do this work. And if there's one thing that I wish was different about the world, it is that allowing more people to deeply engage themselves, deeply engage their relationships through work like this, work that asks really deep and meaningful questions, um, that allow people to feel both open minded but also extremely confident about themselves. And that balance, I feel like, has taken away a lot of anxiety, fear, and shame away from my life. And so when I look around me and I see anxiety and fear and shame ruling not just individuals, but whole communities, all I want to do is find ways to bring this kind of work to them.
You spoke a little earlier about um, a change in your willingness to have the difficult conversation kind of in the professional setting. So I'm wondering, has doing the OPP had any impact on your professional life?
Certainly. And it's hard to pinpoint exactly one moment or another, but I would say those difficult conversations are are not things that I run away from, but are more like opportunities or ways that I can prove to myself how I've changed.
Mhm.
And so I view them very much as, oh, this is where the juice is. This is where the fun is when it comes to this work. And and especially I'm thinking of anger in my life, and people who express anger to me and times that I get angry with other folks. That was a very scary emotion for me. And in the workplace, often that shows up in times where I've messed up and someone is now coming towards me and expressing that anger, or the opposite, where I feel some type of way about how what somebody said to me, and I feel like I need to say something to them. And before, I would maybe write something down before giving it to them. Um, but I have a whole new set of tools now of questions I can ask about myself and to other folks that feel safe. I don't fear that any of these conversations are going to go off into the deep end and I'm going to ruin a relationship. If anything, I feel like I have the tools necessary to end any of these conversations in a good place. And so there's that, and also knowing that if someone is coming at me, it's maybe a bit about what I've done, but it's also a lot about themselves and any previous experiences that they've had coming into one of these conversations. And so I don't take things as personally as I used to. I don't fear, I don't feel the overwhelming amount of shame if someone's saying, Johnny, you screwed up. Because I know that there are other things that are a part of the emotion behind those words that are outside of my control, that are not a part of me. And so I can let in the things that resonate with me, but also block a lot which doesn't.
Wow, that sounds really powerful and empowering. Thanks for sharing.
It has been.
Hmm. So when did you take on a mentee for the first time?
I took on a mentee immediately after our mentorship session ended. It was a few weeks afterwards, and it was my best friend and roommate. And Um, and so I guess that would have been September,
Hmm.
perhaps, of last year.
Mm. And what was it like for you as you were approaching the idea of being a mentor and kind of reaching out to someone? What was that initial process like for you?
I had a lot of hesitancy around entering that role because I never viewed myself as a teacher. I never viewed myself as a mentor or someone who had gifts to not only give but to really teach somebody. The idea that I could change someone's life is it felt it felt like hubristic or egotistical, and only because I knew it changed mine did I feel like I was capable of doing it for someone else. And certainly there was some doubt on day one, even too, and day two and day three. But as you know, week two came along and week three, all of that went away just because they were so grateful for it and let me know that. And it became so obvious that it's not about me. It's not about the um, power dynamic. It's just about the work. And the way this work happens is through a process that I'm merely a conduit for.
So it sounds like once you got into the relationship, you started getting some feedback and the tension reduced a little bit. What was it that got you, that kind of pulled you through? What resource did you pull on before you kind of engaged with another person?
You, you were immensely helpful. I mean, you certainly. I think the biggest thing was giving me the confidence and the support to say you can do this, because it wasn't a role that I would assume for myself. But I love the idea that this work not only says you can do it after going through this process for a short amount of time, but that we expect you to do this because I feel like the shift wasn't in skill, the shift was just in an identity of, oh, I am a mentor now. And nothing changed between the day before and the day after in me personally, skills wise.
Mm.
It was just an expectation I had for myself that didn't exist before.
Was there anything else that being a mentor brought you, or you learned or experienced that you didn't get from being a mentee?
An identity of being a healer.
Mm.
That is the biggest thing. And I think that is outside the actual work itself, the identity it's given me, the role it's given me, and how I perceive myself and how others perceive me has been life changing as well. Where if there is a certain type of personal conflict, um, I feel like I have the tools to step into that, both for myself and for other people. And other people now feel comfortable sharing vulnerable parts of themselves with me that they didn't before. And that is a change. I was not an emotionally open person beforehand. I was not someone people would turn to and say, hey, I've got a really hairy personal emotional issue. And um, and not to say that that happens every day or even every week, but it is something that has started to happen. I feel as a direct result of other people knowing that I engage in this work and that I mentor people in this work.
Mm. Um, so I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit now, and this is a potentially a horrid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So, what do you think others are noticing in you that tells them something has shifted? What can they see in you now that you've completed the OPP that they couldn't see before?
I think one of the basic things is how I speak and a level of ownership over emotions or even opinions that this program taught me. the focus on I statements is, I think, huge. And I used to say things like, uh, Anthony, when people say this and this, or, when you have to, uh, you know, be really guarded at work, or you have to bottle up emotions. I'm using you and you and you to explain things that when I'm really talking about myself. I feel all those things. I have certain opinions, and depersonalizing that was a way for me to not feel vulnerable. And now I'm very sensitive to that. And I feel like I do not use that kind of depersonalized language anymore, and allows me to feel more secure. But I also feel like when I talk to people, using that language becomes very obvious to them as well. And we're no longer just talking about, in this very depersonalized way, about this other thing, this other party, these other emotions that belong to other people, but we're talking about ourselves. And so uh, that has led to deeper conversations with people. It's led to deeper relationships. And I felt that shift pretty early on in this program. And it's now something that is a very conscious part of my relationships with other people, the way we talk about ourselves when we talk with each other.
Do you think you'll go on to mentor more people through your life?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, for me, the only question is, you know, do I do other training programs for myself, or do I have the time to train other people, and how do I manage that just with my time? If there's a tension, it's, am I doing this as a mentee, or am I doing something as a mentor? But either way, I'm going to be doing this work for a long, long, long time.
So if somebody's watching this who's thinking about beginning the program or engaging with it somehow, whether it's phase 0 or phase 1 as a mentor or a mentee, is there anything you would like to say to them?
I would say that this is a gift that deserves to be taken very seriously. And I would ask that person to trust that it does take, no matter how they feel it, over the first few days or even the first week, uh, trust that this has the potential to change your life. And I say that because it changed mine. And it doesn't happen overnight. And it builds on itself every single day. And I would encourage that person to check in with other people and to check in with themselves through journaling, to chart that, because these are incremental steps that build pretty quickly, but it's very difficult to see what those changes might be, because we live our own lives, and uh, and taking a step every day might feel small, but looking back, even 2-3 weeks later, um, you can see how far you've gone. I would also say that I would I would encourage becoming a mentor as quickly as possible, because that for me is when the biggest change happened, because that's when I felt powerful in how I'm able to communicate this work, and how I'm able to give gifts to other people whom I truly love. And so it's one thing to learn these things, but to give these things, in my opinion, is where the true power lies.
Thank you, man. Well, Johnny, you've been an absolute gift to me. I judge you're a real gift to those that you share the program with and to all of those others that are in your life. Thank you for spending the time here with me today. Really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we'll meet again on this journey through the OPP.
Anthony, thank you. I've told you this before, but I'll say it again. I'm in immense debt and have immense gratitude to you, and I wouldn't be here without you. Thank you.